In 1957, McDonald's was riding high, doubling the number of restaurants it opened every year and redefining fast food. But down in Florida, a small startup called Instaburger was on the brink of collapse. No one could have predicted that this struggling venture would eventually rise to become Burger King, a global fast food giant generating tens of billions annually and operating in over 100 countries. But the road to success wasn't just difficult. It involved failure, frustration, and even a hint of stolen ideas. The rise of fast food and a visit that changed everything. The story begins in the early 1950s when America was obsessed with the car hop craze. Cheap burgers, fries, and milkshakes delivered right to your car window by waitresses in colorful uniforms had become all the rage. At the heart of this fast food revolution was a small restaurant in San Bernardino, California, McDonald's. Run by two brothers, the McDonald's restaurant was unique because of its speedy service system, a streamlined assembly line kitchen that could churn out food faster than anyone had seen before. Impressed by the efficiency of their system, customers lined up in droves, and McDonald's quickly began making more than $100,000 a year, equivalent to over $1 million today. Word of this success spread across the country, eventually reaching two men, Keith Kramer and his stepfather Matthew Burns. The duo was intrigued. If a single McDonald's restaurant could generate that much profit, what would stop them from building a similar business of their own? Keith and Matthew decided to visit McDonald's to see the magic for themselves, and it didn't disappoint. The brothers' operation ran like a well-oiled machine, pumping out burgers and fries at a speed that seemed impossible. Keith and Matthew knew they had stumbled upon a golden opportunity. Their plan was simple: replicate McDonald's model and bring it to Florida, where there was no McDonald's presence yet. The miracle machines that weren't so miraculous. However, there was one big challenge. They needed to match the efficiency of McDonald's kitchen. During their search for a solution, they discovered two pieces of culinary equipment called Miracle Insta machines. These machines seemed like the perfect answer to their problem. The first was the Insta Shake machine, which could churn out 4 flavors of milkshakes at a speed of 6 per minute. The second, more critical piece of equipment was the Insta Broiler oven. This machine featured a conveyor belt that cooked beef patties and toasted buns simultaneously. In just 90 seconds, the system could turn raw ingredients into finished burgers, producing up to 400 burgers an hour. For Keith and Matthew, this setup was exactly what they needed. The Insta machines promised volume, speed, and consistency, 3 things crucial for fast food. Excited by the possibilities, they secured the exclusive rights to use the Insta equipment and named their new restaurant Instaburger, directly referencing the miracle machines they believed would make them unstoppable. Failure breeds success, and a bit of luck. In 1953, the first Instaburger restaurant opened its doors in Jacksonville, Florida. However, it didn't take long for Keith and Matthew to realize that the machines they had bet their future on weren't as reliable as they hoped. The Instabroiler frequently broke down, often stopping production every few days. And to make matters worse, the burgers it produced didn't taste as good as those served at McDonald's. But here's where things get interesting. If the Instabroiler had worked perfectly, Keith and Matthew might have stuck with the Instaburger concept and continued struggling in obscurity. Instead, frustration with the unreliable equipment forced them to rethink their approach. While the first restaurant was still under construction, a bit of luck arrived in the form of David Edgerton, a businessman who was originally planning to open a Dairy Queen franchise. Mistaking the unfinished Instaburger building for a future Dairy Queen, Edgerton walked in to learn more and left convinced he wanted to be a part of the Instaburger project. This unexpected encounter would set the stage for a series of changes that would ultimately transform Instaburger into Burger King. A mistaken opportunity sparks a partnership. As Keith and Matthew worked tirelessly to prepare their first store in Jacksonville, Florida, fate intervened in the form of David Edgerton, a businessman who initially planned to open a Dairy Queen. Mistaking the unfinished Instaburger store for a future Dairy Queen, Edgerton stopped to chat with Keith and Matthew. When the two entrepreneurs explained they were launching a brand new burger chain instead, David saw a chance. Keith and Matthew gave David a demonstration of their prized Miracle Insta machines, which could produce burgers in seconds. Thankfully, the machines were working perfectly that day. David was blown away. He left Jacksonville convinced that he'd just seen the future of fast food and knew he wanted to be a part of it. Soon after, he backed out of his Dairy Queen deal and signed on to open the second Instaburger store in Miami, even before the first Jacksonville location was officially open. The birth of Instaburger King. Before sealing the partnership, David had one crucial suggestion. They should rename the brand Instaburger King. He believed the addition of King gave the brand a more premium feel. To top it off, he even sketched a playful logo of a cartoon king perched atop a burger, with one arm wrapped around a giant milkshake. Keith and Matthew loved the idea. The whimsical king gave the brand a distinct identity. By April 1953, the first Instaburger King restaurant opened its doors in Jacksonville, featuring a 12-foot sign above the roof with the new logo. With high hopes, Keith and Matthew began advertising for franchisees, promising fast, affordable food and a business model they claimed could pay for itself in just 1 year. The flyers described Instaburger King as the greatest advancement in food service in 50 years. On paper, it seemed like a goldmine. A confusing system and broken machines. However, the reality was quite different. Customers found the ordering system at Instaburger King frustrating and confusing. Unlike other fast food joints where food was brought directly to the car, customers had to place their order at one window, pay up front, and then pick up their food at a second window, often after re-explaining their order. The unfamiliar process left many diners irritated, especially since it deviated from the car hop experience they were used to. But the real problem lay in the equipment. The Instabroiler, which was supposed to churn out burgers quickly, constantly malfunctioned, bringing operations to a halt. Without reliable equipment, the promise of fast service fell apart. Worse, Instaburger King's 18-cent burgers were more expensive than competitors selling similar products for just 5 cents. Sales stagnated, and the Jacksonville store failed to generate the momentum Keith and Matthew had hoped for. David Edgerton's struggles in Miami. Meanwhile, on March 1st, 1954, David opened his Miami Instaburger King location, but he faced the same challenges. The unreliable broiler machines and clunky service system made it difficult to attract regular customers. Yet, despite these setbacks, David believed in the potential of fast food. He knew that if he wanted to turn a profit, expanding beyond a single store was essential. David struck a deal with Keith and Matthew to open more Instaburger King locations across the Miami area. But there was just one problem. David was out of money. He had invested all his savings into his first Miami store, and with disappointing sales, there was no capital left to fund additional locations. Desperate to keep the dream alive, David reached out to several restaurateurs, hoping to find a partner who would share his vision. Most of the restaurant owners he approached declined, reluctant to invest in a business with such shaky foundations. But one of them gave David a valuable recommendation. He should speak with James McLemore, the owner of a small Miami restaurant called the Bickle Bridge. Enter James McLemore, the game changer. And so, the story of Burger King finally introduces its most pivotal figure, James McLemore. Little did David know, this encounter would mark the beginning of a transformation that would change the course of fast food history. James McLemore's decision to partner with David Edgerton, despite the financial mess he uncovered, marked a pivotal moment in the history of what would eventually become Burger King. McLemore wasn't just swayed by optimism or blind ambition. He saw potential in the fast food concept that Burger King embodied, and he understood that the financial losses were primarily due to startup challenges, not a flawed business model. From the very beginning, McLemore and Edgerton shared a vision. Fast food was the future, and to truly capitalize on this emerging trend, they needed scale. Running a single restaurant wasn't going to make them rich. Owning a chain of restaurants could. McLemore's background, particularly his business education at Cornell, gave him the insight to see opportunities others might have missed. He recognized that even though the current store was struggling, there was a path to profitability if the operation was streamlined and expanded. The partnership between James and David was officially sealed in 1954, and together they focused on improving the business model. They quickly realized that the original Instaburger concept wasn't as efficient as it needed to be. The complicated two-window system frustrated customers, and the unreliable burger machines frequently broke down, leading to delays and extra costs. McLemore and Edgerton knew that if they wanted their new venture to succeed, they needed to overhaul the operations and create a more sustainable model. One of the first things the duo did was streamline the production process. They decided to move away from the temperamental Instabroiler machines and replace them with a flame grill system, which would later become a signature feature of the brand. This change not only ensured more consistent quality, but also gave the burgers a distinct flavor that differentiated them from competitors. Another key improvement was simplifying the service process to create a smoother customer experience. The two-window system was scrapped, and they implemented a single, streamlined counter where customers could order and pay in one go. These operational changes helped improve efficiency, reduced customer frustration, and made the dining experience more enjoyable, which was crucial to building customer loyalty. McLemore and Edgerton also rebranded the business. Although the original founders had used the name Instaburger King, the new partnership soon dropped the Insta prefix, simplifying the brand to just Burger King. This change gave the restaurant a more modern and memorable name, and the concept of a king reinforced the premium positioning that they wanted for the brand. The new Burger King restaurant that opened under McLemore and Edgerton's leadership in Miami in 1954 was more than just a second franchise location. It was the beginning of a complete transformation. While the first Jacksonville location had struggled, the Miami store began to generate steady profits. McLemore and Edgerton refined their business model with each new location, learning from mistakes, optimizing operations, and building the foundation for a scalable fast food empire. Their partnership and shared vision would prove crucial in the years to come as they expanded rapidly across Miami and beyond. Burger King's focus on quality, efficiency, and customer experience laid the groundwork for its growth into one of the most recognizable fast food brands in the world. The flame-grilled burgers, rebranded image, and simplified operations McLemore and Edgerton implemented not only helped Burger King survive those early struggles, but also set it apart from competitors like McDonald's. By combining ambition, strategic thinking, and operational improvements, they transformed a small, struggling concept into a powerhouse that would eventually stand as a giant in the fast food industry. McLemore's gamble on an unprofitable restaurant, fueled by his belief in the long-term potential of fast food, wasn't just a business decision. It was a testament to his vision and perseverance. Against all odds, Burger King was born, and the rest, as they say, is history. While David's new flame broiler was a turning point, the business still faced significant challenges. They now had 7 locations spread across South Florida, with each store struggling under heavy debt. But the partners were determined to make their vision a reality, and this new broiler gave them an edge they desperately needed. Not only was the new gas broiler more reliable, but it also cooked the burgers faster and more evenly. Even better, customers began raving about the unique smoky, flame-grilled taste, something competitors couldn't replicate. The next step was to rebrand their operation. They wanted to move away from the shaky reputation that Insta Burger King had developed and create a new identity focused on quality and consistency. In 1957, they dropped the Insta prefix, officially becoming Burger King. With a renewed focus, they also revamped the menu, adding items like the now famous Whopper, which they introduced in 1957 for just 37 cents. James believed that the larger burger would attract more customers, particularly working adults who wanted something more filling. And he was right. Sales began to rise, and the Whopper would go on to become the signature product of Burger King. Despite these improvements, Burger King was still operating on razor-thin margins. Expanding a restaurant chain was costly, and they needed to find a way to grow without overextending themselves. James and David decided to embrace franchising, a strategy they believed would allow them to open new locations quickly while limiting their financial risk. The idea was to sell franchises to other entrepreneurs who would use their capital to open and manage new Burger King locations, with James and David collecting a percentage of the profits. The franchise model proved to be the lifeline the business needed. By 1959, Burger King had 16 locations operating across Florida, and the flame-grilled taste was quickly becoming a customer favorite. However, running a franchise business came with its own set of challenges. The partners had to ensure that each franchisee maintained the same high standards for food quality and service. To address this, they established strict guidelines and operational procedures that every Burger King franchise had to follow. This consistency helped them build a recognizable and trusted brand. In the early 1960s, with the business gaining momentum, James and David realized they needed even more capital to fuel their growth. They decided to sell their company to the Pillsbury Company, which acquired Burger King in 1967. Though James and David no longer controlled the day-to-day operations, their vision had laid the foundation for what would become one of the largest fast food chains in the world. Burger King's rise from a struggling small business to a global brand is a story of persistence, innovation, and risk-taking. James McLemore and David Edgerton's partnership overcame significant obstacles, from unreliable equipment to financial struggles, and ultimately changed the fast food industry forever. Their journey exemplifies how vision, hard work, and a willingness to learn from mistakes can turn even the most difficult circumstances into success. Today, Burger King operates over 19,000 locations worldwide, and that signature flame-grilled flavor remains the cornerstone of its brand. An unintentional but brilliant result of a broken machine, a frustrated hatchet, and two determined entrepreneurs who never gave up. Ben agreed to James's proposal, and just like that, David and James secured full control over both the national and international rights to what would soon become Burger King. With this new agreement in place, the duo could now expand far beyond their South Florida roots, free to explore new markets across the country. Armed with a winning product in the Whopper and an operational model that finally worked, they wasted no time in growing the business. Their first step was to rebrand Instaburger King by dropping the Insta prefix, streamlining the name to the more recognizable Burger King. Expansion and franchising strategy. David and James realized that franchising was their ticket to scaling fast. But unlike the original founders, they were much more deliberate with their strategy. They focused on finding reliable partners who would uphold the company's standards and invested heavily in training franchisees to maintain consistency across locations. They also required franchise owners to install the same gas-powered flame broilers, ensuring the signature taste was preserved in every restaurant. To attract customers and build brand loyalty, they continued to market the Whopper as the star of the menu. Signs reading "Home of the Whopper" were placed prominently at every store, reinforcing the burger's status as a must-try item. And their gamble of pricing the Whopper higher than McDonald's burgers paid off. Customers were willing to pay more for a premium product, appreciating the larger size, unique flavor, and fresh toppings that came with the sandwich. Challenges in competing with McDonald's. Even with their newfound success, Burger King faced stiff competition from McDonald's, which was expanding rapidly across the U.S. with its efficient business model. However, David and James focused on what set them apart. While McDonald's emphasized speed and simplicity with a small menu, Burger King embraced menu variety and positioned itself as offering a higher quality flame-grilled alternative. The company also experimented with innovative marketing campaigns to grab attention. In 1958, they introduced the slogan, "Have it your way," giving customers the option to customize their burgers, something McDonald's didn't offer at the time. This personalization not only delighted customers, but also helped Burger King carve out its own identity. From regional success to national presence. By the early 1960s, Burger King had grown beyond Miami, opening stores throughout Florida and neighboring states. With increasing demand from potential franchisees, David and James decided to aggressively expand the business. In 1961, they secured a major deal with several investors that allowed them to accelerate the franchising process. Stores began popping up across the U.S., and the brand quickly gained national recognition. Their timely rebranding, improved operations, and the introduction of the Whopper proved to be pivotal in Burger King's rise. By 1967, just over a decade after they first partnered, Burger King had become the second largest fast food burger chain in the U.S., trailing only McDonald's. That same year, the company was acquired by Pillsbury, giving David and James access to the financial resources and corporate infrastructure needed to grow even further. The legacy of David and James. While Keith and Matthew, the original founders of Instaburger King, faded into obscurity, David and James's contributions shaped the future of Burger King. Their willingness to take risks, whether it was smashing a faulty machine or creating a high-priced burger, ultimately paid off. More importantly, Their story demonstrates that success isn't just about having a great idea. It's about executing it better than anyone else. David and James didn't invent fast food, nor did they come up with the concept of a large burger. But they identified what worked, improved upon it, and capitalized on opportunities as they arose. In the late 1950s, a new chapter began for a small fast food franchise, originally known as Instar Burger King. Founders Keith and Matthew had laid the groundwork, but it was David and James who truly turned the company around. With their innovative ideas and bold vision, the duo spearheaded the brand's growth. David was the mastermind behind the company's name and its state-of-the-art cooking equipment, while James crafted its most beloved product, the Whopper, and implemented pivotal brand changes that set the stage for future success. By 1959, after years of quietly leading the operations, David and James finally gained full control of the business. They transitioned from franchisees to franchisors, officially selling stores and making key decisions about the company's direction. One of their first moves was to drop the word Instar from the name, simplifying it to the now iconic Burger King. With renewed vigor, they set their sights on becoming the top fast food franchise in the United States, hoping to compete with the ever-growing McDonald's. In 1962, Burger King opened 7 new locations and posted an impressive profit of $73,058. However, McDonald's opened 107 restaurants that same year, achieving a staggering profit of $439,310. Although the gap was significant, Burger King was closing in fast. By 1965, they had halved the distance between their growth and McDonald's, and James was optimistic about their chances to catch up. But everything changed in April 1965 when McDonald's went public. The fast food giant's stock soared, climbing from an initial price of $22.50 to nearly $50 in just a month. This surge made it clear the race for dominance was over before it really began. James, however, remained undeterred. He believed that a strategic partnership could level the playing field. In 1967, the Pillsbury Company approached Burger King about a merger, and James eagerly embraced the opportunity. He envisioned that with Pillsbury's resources, they could accelerate their growth and finally compete on equal footing with McDonald's. David, on the other hand, was more cautious, preferring independence over potential control loss. Ultimately, the allure of additional resources and support won out, and Burger King was absorbed by Pillsbury for $18 million, with David, James, and their investor, Harvey, retaining 10% ownership in the larger corporation. Initially, the merger seemed promising. James was granted autonomy as president and CEO, and his salary jumped significantly. However, it soon became apparent that Pillsbury intended to exert control over operations, stifling the entrepreneurial spirit that had driven Burger King's success. Frustrated by the slower growth strategy and increased corporate oversight, David resigned in 1969, while James remained to navigate the new landscape. Over the next several years, Burger King's growth stalled as Pillsbury prioritized stability over expansion. McDonald's continued to open new locations at a staggering pace, outpacing Burger King. In an effort to revitalize the brand, Pillsbury launched Operation Phoenix, hiring Donald Smith, a former McDonald's executive, to lead the charge. Smith introduced key changes, including stricter franchising guidelines and a broader menu, to enhance customer experience and consistency across locations. Despite these efforts, Burger King struggled to reclaim its competitive edge. However, the brand's resilience shone through. By the early 1980s, Burger King regained momentum, re-establishing itself as a formidable player in the fast food arena. Campaigns like Have It Your Way emphasized customization, setting it apart from McDonald's standardized offerings. Though Burger King may never have overtaken McDonald's, its journey is a testament to ambition, innovation, and the enduring spirit of entrepreneurship. In 2002, TPG Capital acquired Burger King for $1.5 billion and took the company public in 2006. This stock sale generated a remarkable $425 million in revenue, setting a record for an IPO of a US-based chain restaurant. By 2009, Burger King celebrated its best year ever, posting revenue of $2.54 billion from 12,078 outlets worldwide. Over the next decade, that number surged to over 19,000 locations. Thank you for joining me on this fascinating journey through the rise of Burger King. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more captivating business tales. Share your thoughts in the comments. What's your favorite Burger King memory? And stay tuned for our next video where we dive into the incredible story of FedEx and its founder's high-stakes gamble. Until next time, keep chasing those entrepreneurial dreams.